Great. And you're recording, super duper. That is fantastic. Who are we? We work, basically Third Iron is the name of the company. What you're going to be taking a look at is a service called LibKey. We work with over 1,500 libraries in 35 countries. We have a renewal rate of over 99%. So people really do love what we do and find it to be essential for libraries. What's important for you to note is that it doesn't really matter what kind of library you are. It could be like a big R1, right? Like University of Washington or Washington State. You know, we work with folks like that. But we also work with folks like CGen and so like on the corporate side, or, you know, Merck and Pfizer. We also work with a number of hospitals and then, of course, work with big government institutions like Pacific Northwest National Labs, not terribly far from you as well. But starting with, like, you know, the R1s, like think University of Washington's, we also have a partnership with the Community College League of California, where all 110 libraries in the CCLC use LibKey technology. So why? What's the deal? Like, why? And this is not to blow our own horn to say, like, you know, hey, what we do is awesome, but rather it's to say that libraries have the same problems. It doesn't really matter what kind of library you are. People have generally the same types of issues, and that issue revolves around access, right? Which is where a user goes either to a discovery system, or they go to a database, or they're out in the open web, and they just want to be able to get from that point of discovery to full text. But we all know that there's a lot of cumbersome processes that are layered in the middle here. And oftentimes it can be really difficult for that user to get from where they're doing that initial search to full text. So to give you a sense as to what some common linking problems are, I mean, I'm sure these are all going to make a lot of sense to you. It used to be that when, you know, things all started, you know, there was an article that came from a publisher like 25 years ago, and it was pretty easy to get, you know, to that one place, or at least easy enough. And that's really changed over the last 25 years with the proliferation of collections and things being aggregated. You know, users are now faced with multiple choices for where they can go and get information. And we all know that for your average user, it makes no sense for them, right, to go like, let's see, should I get this from JSTOR or Wiley or Bio1 or the DOHA? None of those things make a lot of sense to users. And in fact, in a lot of ways, they make like even less than zero. They just start clicking around, hoping they're going to get where they want to go. So the multiple options set is really a big linking problem for users, and just like provides a heavy cognitive load for people trying to get just to where they want to go. People that are used to seeing something, clicking it, and getting immediately there. This basically happens everywhere else in the world of the internet, with the exception of the research library. Another big problem is that when you're trying to deal with aggregated content, and you think about sources like EBSCO, if any of your libraries or all of the organization is invested in EBSCO, you probably are familiar with this screen, which is where Alma says, yeah, hey, you should have access to this. And EBSCO says, yes, you should have access to this. And then the user clicks on it, cue the sad trombone, they see this no results were found page, right? This mainly happens for you know, a couple of reasons. The biggest one is just that it's too new and EBSCO hasn't loaded it up yet. Tends to be the main one. Or, you know, the other possibility is that it's so new that it's like an article in press, and users just aren't able to navigate to it as easily as they could. So there's a lot of errors like this, especially connecting with things like EBSCO materials. Here's one illustrating how insufficient or misunderstood transmission of metadata can make a request resolve to the journal page rather than the actual article itself, right? So oftentimes, because we know with OpenURL, what it's trying to do is match metadata to target. And if anything's a little bit off with that metadata, you can have problems like this, or even worse, problems that look like this, right? Like where things are just completely going off the rails and you get big HTTP errors. And then this is only for what's happening inside the library, right? Users that start their work outside the library, go to a place like a Google Scholar or maybe a PubMed directly, oftentimes are going to hit things like paywalls and not understand that the institution actually does indeed have access to this type of information. And this is really only scratching the surface on what a lot of linking problems are, but they tend to be fairly evident. So with LibKey, what we're trying to do is really present a new paradigm for linking, right? The first thing that you should be aware of when we think about like what OpenURL and the link resolver is trying to do, the main backdrop with which that technology, the existing technology, and to be really clear, the technology that libraries have been operating with for the past 25 years without much improvement over the course of that time is working at the journal level, right? So OpenURL is predicated on ISSNs and EISSNs. However, with LibKey, what we're doing is working at the article level. We work with DOIs and PubMed IDs. And the idea here is that when we're thinking about article level intelligence, just so you know, what we do is actually patented and proprietary. So what we're going to talk about today is you can only get that with Third Iron and LibKey. What we do with that article level intelligence is we couple it with an AI expert system source selection process that just completely takes the guesswork out of the user's hands and makes it so we can automatically get the user to the best source and map them there very, very quickly and easily, and getting them on their way to full text in a much simpler way than they have been able to over the course of the digital age. We think about why article level intelligence is important. Well, one of the things is article metadata. So there's no system that's going to actually be more current than what you get with LibKey. We actually blend sources here. So we think about like Crossref for sure, but also like the core group in Great Britain, and there's similar systems in Japan. Every single day, we go out to these sources to know what is new in the scholarly universe. And then we are housing that data. So in a lot of ways, you think about this slide, we are kind of a data management company in certain ways and contain a lot of different information. But in terms of article metadata, we know everything that's out there in the scholarly universe going back decades. And we have all that available so that we know where these PDFs and HTML articles are. Next is library entitlements. One of the things that's really neat about the LibKey system is that it scopes to a given library's holdings. We know that libraries are unique. No two are exactly alike, right? I'm sure you have some shared resources within the consortium, but libraries might have individual things based upon individual needs. Like certain libraries might be more nursing heavy and might carry more nursing journals, for example. So every library, again, that we work with is indeed unique. And we have a way to, for example, if you are an Alma Primo library, and I know most within the organization are, the idea is that you set up a publishing profile in Alma, and then that just automatically sends us the holdings every couple of weeks. There's nothing manual that you actually have to do with this. One of the beautiful parts about LibKey is that once you set it up, you can kind of wipe your hands, walk away, because it's done. There's nothing actually that you have to continually maintain. In terms of authentication, we simply are going to leverage your existing means of user authentication. There's no added usernames or passwords for users. So if they are accessing things on campus through IP, off campus through proxy, great. If you move to Open Athens, great. Whatever you're doing there for out of building access, we will be able to leverage that. Open access availability. This is a big one for us. We'll be talking a little bit more about this as we move through the presentation in more detail. But what's really important to understand is that we do blending of best possible sources for open access. To give you a little bit of color for what I mean, years ago, for those of you that are familiar with Unpaywall, super nice people over there at Impact Story. They're very interesting folks, and they have an algorithm that goes and crawls and looks for anything new that could even be like tangentially open access. However, we licensed all their data so that we could basically present that to our users. And within 2 weeks of us doing that, our support ticket volume at Third Iron actually increased by about 5 times to, I think it was like 5 or 6 times what the previous rate was, which was substantial. And we were like, what happened? And we dug into the numbers, and what we found is that it actually had to do with the Unpaywall data. So we walked back that integration and we took a look at that data and realized that what Unpaywall does is it really is a, for lack of a better term, like a blunderbuss. It is really trying to capture anything and everything that could even be tangentially considered open access. And what this means is that not only are they getting things that are like legitimately open access, but there's a lot of stuff that would fall into the manuscript and beyond category. Sometimes things are pointing to sources that are going to like weird repositories and like uncorrected proofs in places like, you know, ResearchGate and ultimately places that you don't want people going to get that type of information. So basically what Unpaywall is, again, great organization, not a library-centric organization. So what they really have done is create something without guardrails on it. What LibKey does is it incorporates Unpaywall data, but we've also massaged their data. We fixed links where they were broken. We added PDFs where there weren't any. And we've also then put up those guardrails so that your users won't be seeing things like uncorrected proofs from ResearchGate. And of course, every single day since we go out to Crossref, etc., we also understand what's new in the open access community. And this is going to become more important a little bit when we talk about hybrid journals in just a few seconds. Aggregator availability. Talked about EBSCO a second ago. Again, if you're invested in EBSCO at all, one of the main reasons, excuse me, that the CCLC adopted LibKey was because of this. EBSCO knows that this is a problem, mostly because they have a laundry list of tickets every day that looks like a CVS receipt with this access question. So what we actually worked in conjunction with EBSCO to do was to create a check system whereby if a user coming from like an Alma library, for example, is pointing towards something that has an EBSCO entitlement, we actually do a real-time check to make sure that that entitlement is at the other end. And if it is, and only if it is, do we create a PDF link directly in the interface in which the user is working, right? Whether that's a database or Primo, whatever it might happen to be. So for the first time in modern library history, if a user clicks on a get PDF link that points to an EBSCO entitlement, they can with 100% accuracy actually get there. So again, what that effectively means is that all these EBSCO access problems that you've had across the board, you can kiss them goodbye through some simple integrations that you do with LibKey. Versioning, is this the version of record? Wouldn't it be really great if we were showing users version of record? And if it is a submitted manuscript, wouldn't it be great if it was labeled that way so that users actually know what they're working with? Would you like PDF? Would you like HTML? Would you like both? Shouldn't the library be in charge of how it is presenting information to its users? Because there's reasons for both, right? You know that users have a different pathway and like a goal in mind when they're working with information. Some people want PDFs. A real great reason that a lot of folks that we talk to are interested in HTML versions whenever possible is because folks that have visual impairments can really use screen readers, but they can only use them with HTML versions. So with a single click, you're solving a lot of problems on the ADA front with LibKey as well. And then finally, editorial status. Wouldn't it be great if we knew that articles were retracted, or there was an expression of concern about the article, or perhaps even coming up in the new year, we're going to be having a partnership with Cables, which does the the predatory journal information. In terms of best source, we simply are going to go through and select through a very simple algorithmic process the best possible source for the user. Now, again, we've ingested the library's holdings data, so we know all of the different options for where a user could get a given article from. So what we actually do is a real-time analysis of all these available sources, and we run it through what we would refer to as our waterfall. And this is very much like an if-then type of structure. At the top of that list is open access version of record. Each and every time, if we can point a user to OA VOR, we'll do that. A lot of reasons libraries like open access. We really like it because it's super fast. Users don't have to authenticate to go to it. Underneath that, we'll point users to things that come directly from publishers. We stack that above things that come from aggregators, mostly, like 99% of the time, because we want to avoid the embargo question whenever possible. Underneath that, we have accepted manuscripts. This is something that you can turn on or turn off as the library. Most libraries like it turned on because we actually do label things for what they are. And then underneath that, we will point the user to your ILL document delivery process, whatever that might happen to be. It's probably also a good time for me to add that if there is any interlibrary loan going on within the consortium at all, one of the things that we actually have coming up in the very near term, if you have any Iliad libraries, is we have a partnership with Atlas, and there's going to be a way for mutual customers to turn on in like the Iliad admin module, basically like kind of flip a radial button or a switch or something to that effect. So if LibKey can fulfill an ILL request right away, it will actually do that and provide the user links, and then would provide the ILL librarian information that happened. But they won't, the ILL librarian will not have to fulfill the request because it'll effectively already be fulfilled. Again, this is going to be the most technical that we get. We think about LibKey linking logic. And again, these are that series of knowledge stacks that I just went through in greater detail. The important part about this is that once a article record is present and there's a DOI or there's a PMID associated with it, we run it through that series of information. This all happens within milliseconds, and you'll see this operate within a very short period of time here, probably about like another 3 or 4 minutes. We'll get to live examples. But the idea is that once we run it through all this, we again select the best source for the user, and then we get that user over to full text right away. And we do it from anywhere, right? So no matter where that user starts their work, whether it's in Primo, whether it's going to be in like an EBSCO host database, or perhaps like somewhere is out there doing searching on the open web with like a PubMed or something like Wikipedia, where a lot of users might start. We're going to make sure your users are able to get to full text immediately, solving all these problems that you've had with access for so long. I'd like to just delve a little bit deeper into OA knowledge because it is relevant and important today. I know a lot of libraries are really focused keenly on open access. So we think about like what's going on and different sources of open access information, a lot of different methodologies out there to be able to get to full text, depending upon what you're using. Is it on paywall? Is it the DOAJ? Is it some kind of ex libris type of embedded service that's going to do that for you? And ultimately, all of these different systems are disparate. They have different methodologies for harvesting information, different means of showing you or showing the user that information. And there's a lot of common errors and a lot of results about this with open access. A lot of things that are mistakenly open access, but they're actually behind a paywall or vice versa. Why? Perhaps because there was some transformative agreement that just happened, right? Meaning that all this stuff just changed status overnight. And is somebody going to actually keep up with that? Because, you know, in a lot of cases, that doesn't really happen too well. And especially also that versioning question, right? Broken links and so on and so forth. So what LibKey is going to provide to you by blending all of these open access sources and by going out and understanding on a daily basis what is new or changed in the world of scholarly communication. Again, say there was a transformative agreement yesterday and a whole swath of content has just now become open access. We're the kind of folks that are going to be able to change that immediately for your users. Whereas for other types of systems, they're simply not going to be able to be that current with it. So we're going to do that blending. We have that level of operational control. If something goes wrong, we can usually fix it within 24 hours or much sooner. And again, the currency question. And of course, the big thing that's going on here now is hybrid journals. And so we think about what's going on in these hybrid journals because it was very interesting. I was at a conference, ACRL in Pittsburgh this past March, and I saw a presentation that was talking about open access information. Over just in 2022 alone, there were 3.2 million articles that were released into the scholarly universe, which is a lot of reading. Of that, about 55% are open access. So that's a lot. It's about 1.7 million, give or take. Of that number, only 20% are coming from gold OA journals. So like your +1s and BMCs and so on and so forth. That means the rest are coming from hybrid journals. So this is a trend that has really gone to a very high extreme. And the question is how are your users able to access open access materials from these hybrid journals? So we think about what a lot of key databases, ANI databases are, right? And those would be things that a lot of your users are probably going to have access to, whether that's like an academic search Premier or a CINAHL or a PsycInfo, something like that, right? And you kind of get a sense as to how many hybrid journals are in here. So what becomes really important is you think about how users are accessing information through there today in the status quo. Especially think about this as if like you're an Alma library, right? Because a lot of libraries, and I'm going to presume that this is certainly the case for a lot of your libraries as well, there might not be a lot of direct subscriptions to these journals. And so a lot of the access is going to be limited by embargoed stuff, right? So either things that are non-subscribed or embargoed. But a user does a search in one of these databases, and you're still pointing to a lot of stuff in there that's not going to be in the central discovery index. And what that means is that for some of those articles that are behind a paywall, users would need to use an intra-library loan to be able to access it. However, if it's open access, shouldn't they be able to click on it and get right there? Well, they should, but that doesn't happen today because those journals, because the way that the system operates is that it's looking at the journal level. It's looking at the ISSN or EISSN. So ultimately what that means is that from a workflow standpoint, right, user is going to go look for something in a hybrid journal. They want an OA article. It's indexed in the database. It goes to the link resolver, and it kind of keeps going around in this chain. The problem is that the user can't access it, right? So what happens is that it goes to ILL, and then there's a lot of delay in being able to get there. When we talk to ILL librarians, the vast majority of them say, at a minimum, 50% of what kind of requests they're fulfilling are for open access information, which is remarkable. But that's what happens when you're dealing with ANI databases and you don't have the ability to get users to OA immediately. So again, the link resolver is unaware of article availability, so that user is not going to be able to get to that article right away. With LibKey linking present in these ANI databases, and you can embed LibKey everywhere your link resolver operates, right? So whether that's going to be Google Scholar or PubMed or EBSCOhost, whatever, users, we recognize it immediately as open access, and we can fulfill that request right away. Number one, making it so there are no more delays for users in getting things. And two, taking any kind of pressure off of the ILL librarian to fulfill requests that should have otherwise been easy to do. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is get you over and show you some live examples as to how LibKey operates in real time. And of course, it's probably a good time for me after about 25 minutes of chit chat to take a quick break and see if anybody has any questions before we jump in a little further and take a look at the live stuff. Anyone at all?
Hi, this is Jennifer from Green River College. I have a question. I'm really interested in your live, your live time checking of sources. Does that also include when one of our databases is down? Like, so for example, you showed at the beginning all the list of databases that a student could check. And sometimes, it is confusing for students, but sometimes when one of the databases is down, it's helpful because they can have somewhere else to click. So does your live check include that?
In the case of the embedded technology, the answer is, it's only as good as what the publisher is doing. So I think what your question is there a way to like message around it, right?
Yes.
And today, the only way that would work is with our LibKey Nomad service if a user was actually starting that work outside on the web. Yeah, right now there's no, it's an interesting question. I've actually never really thought about it the way you're thinking about it. But it is interesting, right? We even think about like big publishers and aggregators, and they often do have downtime that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to have. And yet they do. So I appreciate what you're saying, but the short answer to the question is in the way that you're thinking about it right now, is no. We're only as good as the information that's out there, but it's an interesting thought, and I'll chat about it with our team.
I guess as a follow-up to that, and maybe it'll make more sense when we actually see it live, is for various reasons. Sometimes we want users to go to a Gale database versus other times we want them to go to an EBSCO database. Is for various reasons.
No, I get that. Yeah.
And so would we have the power to still do that with LibKey?
100%.
Okay.
So we never obfuscate the link resolver option.
Okay.
So if users still want to go and see all the places they can go, or actually more to your point, from like a kind of a teaching and learning standpoint, if the question really is about something that's not just like getting from point A to point B, we would never like say, oh yeah, you can't go to these other options. Yeah, so that'll always still be there for users. But as I'm sure you could speculate, 90 much more than that +% of the time, right? Like users just want to get there.
Right. I just want to make sure we still have some of these options that we have now, as well as potentially LibKey. So
100%. Yes. Anyone else? Are we ready to go? Ready to go? Ready to go.
Yeah, this is Amy Herman from Olympic College.
Hey, Amy, we met, didn't we?
Yes, I was at a you mentioned an open web integration. Maybe you're going to show that, or maybe is that through Nomad? But you said that our students would be able to access our materials from anywhere or just from out on the web. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, but using LibKey Nomad, right? So the idea is that service is a and I'll show it to you in like about 10 minutes here, right?
Okay, I don't want to jump again.
No, but no, it's fine. But the idea of Nomad, just to answer your question, is that it is a browser extension that's smart, right? Like the user basically downloads it. It takes like 5 seconds to download, and then they associate themselves with the library. And once they do, if they're starting their work someplace that has like DOIs or PMIDs, whatever that is, that's kind of when Nomad kicks into gear. So the short answer to your question is yeah. That's probably a long way for me to say yes. If a user is out in the open web, they have to have this browser extension, but if they do, they will indeed be able to get from where they are in the open web to the library provided material, which is what you want.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Here we are, Big Bend Community College. let's all look for everyone's favorite morning topic, caffeine overconsumption. And here we go. We're getting in here, and we'll take a look at peer-reviewed journals just so we can kind of get a sense of this.
There's a question for Naoko though.
Oh, sorry. What do we have for a question? Is it in the chat? Did I miss it?
Oh, I just raised my hand. Sorry, this is Naoko from Highline College.
Hi.
Hi, I have a question about the availability of articles in Primo. You know how Ex Libris doesn't always have 100% accurate holdings information once we activate a collection from Community Zone. So LibKey cannot really do anything beyond that. So the availability is dependent on Ex Libris's holdings information.
That's true. We're only as good as the information that's in there. But I will say this. In the event that there's something that is missing, you can report that to us, and then we can do it for individual libraries, or we can actually do that for a grouping of libraries. So when I'll show you this when we do, I'll show you like how the holdings upload works and like how you set up a publishing profile in Alma. But we do work with that like NZ-IZ approach, right? So that you'll be able to get all the things that you have consortially as well as locally in that load. But if there's something that needs to be added or there's something that's wrong, we can change those things on the fly. So we can do a mix of the automated, but there can be some manual fixes and overrides that we do as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Here we go, right? You know the drill here. You know, if I go and I look at the record here, okay, this is coming from DOAJ. So in theory, I would be able to get to this thing right away. And okay, great. This one actually like works pretty well. They might not all work so great, like who knows. Here's an article and research library, most recent 2 months not available, so on and so forth. But you know what this looks like, right? Kind of the standard grayscale article, right? Whatever it might be. If I go to Monterey Peninsula in a little bit south of San Francisco, and I take a look at what they're doing, you'll see immediately that there's a number of things that have indeed changed here. So obviously, Monterey Peninsula Community College has implemented LibKey, and this is one of the CCLC schools, as I'm sure you know. And the first thing that you're going to notice that's quite striking about what's happening here with LibKey is that we inject 23,000 plus journal cover images into the Primo interface and do that right away. Now, does this look prettier than this? It does. And that's, you know, I guess a virtue in and of itself. But the real thing here is that for repeat users of the system, they go, oh, right, that's anatomy and cell biology, or that's radiology and case reports. So users can more quickly identify source material that they trust and want to be able to work with. So that's one facet of the API integration here with Primo. Next, you see this view issue contents. And I do want to stress this for community college users, and you're about to kind of see why that's the case. If I click on view issue contents, you'll see that what this does is it brings you to a view of this article highlighted within the actual issue of the journal from which it comes. Now, a lot of community college librarians that I've talked to have often indicated that they really do consider themselves to be like teaching and learning folks. And really like the first line of information literacy for users that are hopefully going to be going on to get a 4-year degree. And wouldn't it be good if we kind of help them understand that, hey, this is not what information is. Not everything has been Googleized and atomized to death, right? Like these articles actually come from somewhere. They come from these things called journals that have back issues, and they have articles in press. And hey, you want to see everything that we get here at Monterey Peninsula on cell biology, here's all of the different journals that we carry. And if you wanted to see aging cell, here's the most recent. And you want to see this article, you can go ahead and download that PDF, and we'll see if this is OA. It is. So I'm able to go ahead and get right through to that. And you kind of get the sense as to how users could have a pretty interesting information journey here. What is kind of cool about this interface, we refer to this facet here of the API for Primo integration as the article in context feature. It says again, view issue contents. What's interesting about it is that users stayed in this, and we did a study of 44 schools, large and small, and users stayed in this environment for an average of 3 minutes and 15 seconds and 8.75 page views. And for those of y'all who do this kind of like number crunching, that's very sticky for any kind of service in the library, especially for people that are in search mode. So again, pretty exciting. And, I can kind of go out to all these different subjects, and you kind of get a sense here if I wanted to go and see everything that we had available in music, and then wanted to look at everything we had in music therapy, right? Here's all that too. So users can kind of have this really cool information journey. But the big thing here, right, is going to be the download article PDF, if I can get it, right? So I might get asked here if I'm a robot, and I am being asked. I'm not a robot. So here's the actual article, right? Again, coming from Science Direct. If I wanted to look at this online, you can see that what Monterey Peninsula has done is they've created an integration that is not just like get a PDF or get HTML, but here's both options. And wouldn't it be great if we could present both to users if and whenever possible? So you get the sense here as to how they are being able to make it so you can have any kind of possibility that's out there. And you can see, right, to be super clear about this, I'm still able to click on this. So to answer that earlier question, you see here that we do not obfuscate the link resolver. Users can still go there if they want to be able to go there. But again, for the typical user who just wants to be able to get right through to that information, single click. I should also add one more important thing, and that is that these messages are all malleable. Like it's Primo, it's an API. So you can make that say what you want it to say. You just want it to say get PDF, knock yourself out. Feel free to do that. The other thing that's really important to note here is that you'd never really have much of an idea that LibKey was involved in this. You see all the text and everything looks just like it's integrated, completely as an organic part of the Primo interface. We're really focused on that. We're not looking for credit or big LibKey flashing signs or anything like that. Really, the whole idea here is to make it so that the library runs smoother and gets users where they want to go. So again, these are all options here. Now, just so you know, if I go, yes, there is a question from Jennifer.
Yeah, sorry, those two options, the read PDF and the read download PDF. Yeah, is that the PDF HTML that you were referring to earlier?
Well, this is the so again, this is the PDF of the of this article in the record, right? So,
right.
Here I go. That actually might not. So one of the things about this that's really interesting here, this is a much better way to think about this. You can see that we can get the user right through to the PDF of this article because it's OA. So, users don't have to authenticate, including me coming in because I'm obviously not a Monterey Peninsula student or faculty member. This is the HTML version of that. So what we're doing here is presenting both, but what LibKey is doing and what Monterey Peninsula wanted to do with LibKey was present both options, make it so a user could select the ability to go to the PDF directly or the ability to go to the HTML version directly. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And is the HTML version, I mean, I'm not sure in this case if they had if that was coming from an aggregator. Where was that pulled from?
This one looks like it is coming directly from the publisher. So whether they have this only available within an aggregated source, what we'll do is send the user to that OA version of record every time. So let's see, Tea Plant, Camilla, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. This is coming from, PubMed Central, OA. So wherever that would be getting this from is where we're pointing to.
Okay, so what if an article is not in open access? I guess, and you may not be able to show us.
No,
I
could. No, it's an important question, right? So let's see if I can find something that's not OA like this. I hit the proxy wall.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yes, very good. So that then just would take you to the database that we would have, right?
Well, no. So what would happen here is that if I put in my credentials, then if this pointed to this PDF right here, right? Then the PDF would just open up once I input the credentials. Or if I had already inputted the credentials, this would work here exactly the way that it works for an open access article.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is like you say, as you said earlier, this is getting readers to the PDF, but sometimes librarians want users to look at the article within a database because there are subject headings that we want to teach them about and learn about.
Absolutely.
That's where we click on the title then, right?
Yeah. That's when you click on the title, you get here. Again, we don't obfuscate that. So we're clearly trying to solve an access problem, right? That makes the user that just wants to get the darn article, right?
Yeah.
And so like we're cutting through all that. Incidentally, that's only one of the problems that we solve. So we kind of think about some of the other problems that are important here, right? So here's a good one. Let's say that I wanted to look up this. Oh, actually, let's say that I'm going to go look this up here at Big Bend. Okay, super fun article, great reading. I click on this. I want to get it. It's coming from EBSCOhost, right? I click on this and I go through to it. What's interesting about that particular article, especially vis-a-vis EBSCO, is this article has actually been retracted. And users that go like directly through to that on the EBSCO platform would never be aware that that article had been retracted. So when we click on this, and this is what the kind of information that LibKey does provide, in addition to retraction, we're soon going to be rolling in expressions of concern, which, as we all know, is a precursor to retraction. But what's interesting, right, is that not only are we informing the user that the article's been retracted, but we're also pulling in the data from Retraction Watch that indicates why. And in this case, it's pretty bad, right? Like doing the right thing is about as bad as it gets in the publishing world. Again, we do solve clearly these access problems. At the same time, we're providing a lot of critical information, right? We're providing more info about where users are linking to than they've had in the past, and things that they might need to know, like this. And as more and more articles are out there becoming retracted, we know that this is becoming more part of the zeitgeist. Being able to have this integrated directly into the system, and this is part and parcel with LibKey, what you're looking at here, becomes yet more important, right? Because again, as frontline defenders of information, you want users just to be aware of what's available to them. So just so you know, the integration is very easy to do. If you go to Third Iron and you go to our knowledge base, you can see here, integrating LibKey into Ex Libris Primo and Primo VE. Over here, you see the Alma Holdings publication profile information, and you kind of see exactly how you set that Alma publishing profile up. All this is here. It's completely transparent for you to check out and read whenever it makes sense for you to do that. In terms of the integration overview, you'll just see that all right here. And this is like copy and pasted script that you can use to do what you saw at Monterey Peninsula. Yes. So Carly, that is Retraction Watch. I did mention that, but yes, Retraction Watch. And that's actually only one of the places we're going to be pulling information in from, but also soon to be adding in a lot more information about retracted articles that are not just from Wiley and PubMed. Two big sources, but not the only sources, which is what Retraction Watch is working with. So again, all this information on the Primo integration is standard. So we were able to get 110 CCLC libraries up and running within 45 days of the start of the arrangement. So that shouldn't be much of a problem for what we are talking about here. So fantastic that this is going to be something that is centralized. We are very happy to hear that, and something that that we would certainly be able to work with the central arrangement for making sure that all of the individual schools got what they needed, but again, from a central pivot point. So Carly, thanks for mentioning that. A lot of people said, hey, we love what you're doing with Primo, not the only place where our users do their work. Let's say that I wanted to look at something like caffeine overconsumption at Baylor. So just so you know, I don't have access to EBSCOhost or anything like that where I can show you these things kind of on a database like that. However, just to kind of give you a sense as to how this works, this is obviously one that's out there on the open web. If I was looking at something like Google Scholar and I wanted to see this article on caffeine and headaches, and I take a look at this, you see what would usually happen is I go over to the link resolver at Baylor University. But here you see LibKey is actually acting interstitially. And it's not saying, hey, where do you want to get this thing from? Here's 10 choices for you. But it's saying, in which format would you like it? Do you want a PDF or do you want HTML? And do you want us to remember that for the next 24 hours? I'll say, actually, I just want to get PDF. It's fine. Again, here you see me hit the proxy wall at Baylor. Doesn't work. On the other hand, if I want to be able to go here and see this article, and I click on PDF, this one's OA. You can see how fast I'm able to go ahead and get there. Okay. If I'm over at UMass Medical, let's say I do a search for ankle surgery, and I click on this article on ankle sprains and instability, you see that they have a button. Now, you probably have something like that says, get it at Big Bend, or, find it at Big Bend CC, like whatever it is, right? And then the user clicks on the button, they go to your link resolver. That's where I should go when I click this, but you can see that when I do, again, it's not doing that. LibKey is acting interstitially and asking me that same question. This time I'll select automatically choose that for 24 hours. You can see that I'm not part of the medical community at the University of Massachusetts, something that I'm sure all Commonwealth of Massachusetts residents are excited about. This one I will click on, however, and you can see that when I click for full text, this guy's open access. Remember, I selected the box for 24 hours. This is OA. I get immediately there. Why is this happening? So you can see if you go over to LibKey link, see how to add LibKey to several popular databases. In some ways, this is an even easier integration to get your head around. You see all the different databases that we work with. Any place you deploy your link resolver, you'll be able to do this. So anywhere there's that find it or get it at Big Bend button, right? Instead of having to go to the link resolver, any chance that LibKey can, it will stand in front of your link resolver. That's probably the best way that I can put how LibKey behaves from a technical perspective. We'll stand in front of your link resolver any chance that we can. And what we do is we actually provide you with new URLs. You can kind of see here that these things that say libkey.io and whatever. I know that if I click on any of these databases, there's a place in the back end in the admin module where I'm able to put that, the existing URL for the link resolver. You might have not done this for 10 or 15 years, right? This little URL you probably had there for a really long time. What we do is we provide you with a new URL. And you kind of see here that it says, there's one for PMIDs because PubMed is special, and one for everything else. And inside here, it says library ID and braces. So just so you understand what that is, every library that we work with, again, is unique. And in this case, has a unique numeric identifier. And as part of that numeric identifier, there's all types of information in there. And they're all unique to a given library, like what that library's holdings are, what that library's means of user authentication is. But very important to this conversation, it also contains your existing link resolver URL. Because if we can turbocharge a user to content, the way you saw at Baylor and the way you saw at UMass Med, if we can do that, then that's great, right? But if for some reason it's something that's out of our scope, right? Like it is a newspaper, something that we don't work with because it doesn't have a DOI or PMID, or a popular title like Time Magazine because it's got, doesn't have PMIDs or DOIs, right? That's going to go to the link resolver the way that it always has. So best case scenario is user gets immediately where they want to go. The worst case scenario is the status quo. And all of these here show you how to be able to do all the different databases that you work with and make it so users can get immediately where they want to be. So that's how we integrate with databases. And the cool part about the two things that I just showed is that users don't have to do anything at all, right? Rather, they just are encountering LibKey within their typical workflow. Oh, I can just click on here and get a PDF. Great. Nothing extra special I've got to do or know about. I just actualize the benefits of it by doing my work through the library. For people that start their work outside the library, whether they're faculty or students or whatever, we do have option number 3, which is LibKey Nomad. And if you go to libkeynomad.com, you'll get to a site, and it's got a little video of the guy that we affectionately here at Third Iron refer to as Fist Pump Guy. He's very jacked about getting to full text. You'll see all the browsers that we work with. In this case, I'm on Chrome, so I will go to Chrome. And you'll see that we've got over 800,000 users on LibKey Nomad. We have over 1.8 million users across all the different browsers we work with. It's turned out to be a remarkably popular extension. So a lot of people really love what we do, and they really do love what we do because you can see at every single one of these sites we have a perfect rating. This says right now remove from Chrome. The reason that it says remove from Chrome is because I've got it installed in Chrome. If I didn't, then I would go and select my institution. So if I said something like, Monterey Peninsula College, you can see here that I can select that, right? But I'm in here as a Baylor user. So let's say that I wanted to go to a place like Wikipedia because I'm starting to do some work on alternative energy. So I want to learn about photovoltaics. So here I go to photovoltaics. You even see as if I start to put my cursor over citations that we've got download PDF links embedded right there. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom where the references are, you'll see all the different download PDF links that we've got. So if I click on this one here, you'll see that I hit Baylor's proxy wall. On the other hand, if I go to this article here for energy policy, this one is open access and I'm able to get immediately there. So imagine at a place like Wikipedia transforming this into a library-friendly experience. If I went to a place like PubMed directly for information, perhaps on something like cardiac arrest, you can see that what we're doing here is we even inject journal cover images right into the interface. You can even see as I scroll down that we mark manuscripts for what they are. So you kind of get the sense here as to how your users will actually have knowledge as to what it is that they are downloading. And you even see like view complete issue links there. As you might imagine, this works great for like publisher sites. So if I went like right to the article record here, you see here that I hit a paywall, but as I do, oh, I can just download this article. That's great because a lot of faculty members, they're out there in the open web, they hit that paywall and they charge their department for that when you had the thing the entire time. So this works wonderfully at publisher sites, works great at like ResearchGate, any place that you have DOIs or PMIDs. All right, last thing I just want to go ahead and mention about this is that there are a lot of benefits of the service. And we have a lot of white papers that are up on our site. You can download these if you'd like to take a look at them. One that was done by the University of Manchester, which is a big school in the United Kingdom. They found, and I won't bore you with the math, but they found that by implementing LibKey, just in Primo at the time, we saved their research community over 100 days of time that users would otherwise have spent just clicking through screens, trying to get to full text. By making it so much easier for users, the downstream effect, the net positive for the library, was that there was a directly correlated drop of 25% in support ticket volume. And that's the kind of time that libraries could definitely use to do other things that they need to be able to implement. From a soft standpoint, we did a really interesting study with Seton Hall University in Orange, New Jersey, where they implemented LibKey, and sometimes people don't even know what they want until you give it to them, right? That's often been said about stuff like the iPhone. But the dean of the medical library ran into the main library and said, "I love this. Where has this been my whole life?" And so this kind of approach to the fact that people just love this simplicity of being able to get from the point of discovery to full text is something people want. Meeting user expectations is really important. And there was a study done by the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point a few years ago at Aluna. This is also publicly available. They found that by implementing LibKey, there was a directly correlated drop of 39% in unnecessary ILL requests. And by unnecessary, these are things that are OA or things that are already in the collection, that because before LibKey, these things were just hard to do, and users just said, "Oh, I'm going to make it the library's problem." So the results of LibKey are fewer broken links, less support requests, saving researcher time, connecting users to information in hybrid journals much easier, making it so much easier for users to get from the open web to library materials, meeting user expectations, a lot of happier users. And if people are going to be switching from one platform or one ILS or one discovery system to another, making it so that transition can be super smooth no matter what happens. So that's it for me. I know I ran 2 minutes over. I apologize. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I hope this was helpful and informative for you.
I have a question, and maybe it's more for Carly. Is this something that's being considered at our consortium level?
So right now, what I am trying to do is put together a number of new program proposals for the executive committee to consider and take to LLC. So this is one of them, and with all of the proposals, there would be a different level of consortial level support to get everyone rolling with whatever the program is. So under consideration, definitely seeking feedback. However, no immediate action plan besides getting it in front of LLC.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to know where it was in the pipeline. Thank you.
I don't know, Carly, it sounds like a go to me.
I'm very certain that many people would love that. Me included. I would like to just be able to provide all the things to all of our colleges right away. But I am, this is one of my proposals that's a little better flushed out, just because Amy and Abby have got to talk with Ted at Eluna. I have spoken with Ted. They've got a pretty clear idea of what a partnership with us would look like, having worked with the California colleges. So I can kind of present it a little more confidently than some of my other pie in the sky. This is cool. I'll do this. So
yeah, and Carly, I'd like to think that, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse or anything like that, but I hope you kind of consider what we discussed as broad-based pricing outlines to be reasonable. Like
Oh.
this is nothing that's like crazy at all. In fact, if anything, it's probably undervalued now that I think about it. Just kidding.
Yeah, and I get to make no decision on money. But
I gotcha.
it is definitely a line in the proposal that exec gets. And I think will be a large factor in what they choose to go with. So yeah, if anyone wants to like send me feedback directly to include in that proposal for executive committee, I would love that.
Oh, and you know what, Carly, I should also say one more thing, right? Like if this kind of gets to the point where it would end up being helpful if there were like one or two like pilot sites is not the word, but if anybody like running a quick trial would make sense, you can kind of like see this thing in action, we would totally support that. So, you know, we can get like one or two sites up and running if that is like useful for the committee to better understand what it is that we're doing here.
Yeah, and I will definitely make sure to add like availability of trialing options.
Great.
To that info. So thanks. I don't think we explicitly discussed that before.
But yeah, of course, for sure.
Well, it looks like folks need to get going. Thank you, Ted, for spending the extra couple of minutes so that we could answer these questions. And
it's all my fault. I talk and talk. So
there's a lot to talk about. So if you're still hanging out, this recording will be available. And I will email that link to the participants who registered, and otherwise it will be on our YouTube site. So
great. Thanks, everybody.